Hi, I'm Darren, and I want to take you on a cultural experience in the Bahamas through a festival called Junkanoo. Yes, Junkanoo. Come go with me. On early mornings of Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, the street comes alive. Yes, Bay Street comes alive. Costumes towering the heads of the participants. The streets are talking with drums and cowbells and whistles as the music pulsates. Everybody's in the road as Junkanoo is underway. We usher in those days with our celebration, Bahamian style, Junkanoo. Let's take a step back and start to understand the origin of this unique phenomenon that we celebrate. Over 200 years ago, my ancestors was kidnapped from Africa and put inside the bottom of boats in something called chattel slavery. And they were shipped off from their motherland, stripping them of all quote unquote their festivals, some from their family, all the identity that they know, and brought halfway around the world to the Caribbean, docking in the Bahamas. A lot of them were enslaved for many generations, and over 200 years ago, it was only then that they were emancipated and given freedom. While they were enslaved, they were given 3 days, usually during the holiday season of what we celebrate now, of the Christmas time. Being away from home, what they tried to do was recreate their celebrations as they knew it. Why? Because when they were enslaved, they had no days off. So there wasn't any celebrating of birthdays or marriages or becoming of age. All of those celebrations were stopped, and the only time they were able to celebrate themselves and resurrect their dignity somehow was during Christmas Day, during those days off that they got 3 times during that Christmas and New Year's Day period. During that time, they would steal away into the night, and what they would do was decorate themselves with whatever they can find, whether it was leaves from the nearby communities, whether it was tree branches, whether it was screens, and they made masks. And what they did was they made music from whatever they can find. Using their tools or buckets, they started to make their sounds as they knew it. Over time, these festivals started to grow and grow. As we know it today, we call it Junkanoo. Why this is so important that we understand the origins of this is to understand that where it links us to and the connection that we have with the ancestors from Africa. Junkanoo is so important to us that any Bahamian, when you just say the word Junkanoo, most start to come alive. A lot of people participate in it, and there are some unique features that I'm going to teach you about today. Here are some of the unique features that separate our Junkanoo festival from any other festivals in the world. 1, we make and carry our own music. Yes, the music sections parade behind the Junkanoo groups with drums and cowbells and whistles, and from the early 70s, they've added brass instruments so you get a melodious sound as they're parading down Bay Street. The second thing is, regardless of the size of the costumes are carried by one person, making it an extension of themselves as they dance to the music, and it gyrates and you see the movement coming alive. The third part is what I like to call putting on the skin. Yes, we use a technique called pasting. We use fringed crepe paper to put on the outside layer of our costumes. We call pasting, and give it that finished work that's very unique to what we do. And guess what? I'm going to show you how to paste. Here's what we're going to be making. It's going to be a fringed pasted picture frame. You guys excited? Yeah, but before we get started, I'm going to show you how it all begins. We all start with crepe paper. Yes, crepe paper. I'm going to show you how do we get crepe paper from this state to this fringed state. Come go with me. I'm going to show you how we cut paper. That's what we call it. Cutting paper. Getting it ready for pasting. I'm going to show you the manual process, and then I'm going to show you the electronic process or the faster process, right? When the crepe paper comes, it comes in sheets of crepe paper. And here's what we do next. We will cut the crepe paper down the middle. And this is where the fine art of fringing comes in. What we would do is we would take a shears or sharp edge and we would start to make little cuts on the edge of the paper. And yes, some people fringe faster than others, and with time you will start to see that you would get better with fringing. Regardless of how big your costume is, you should be using fringed crepe paper. I tell people, if the edges are not fringed, you're not pasting, you're crafting. And so your paper edges should be fringed. As we start to go it, I'll show you a close-up on what the paper will start to look like. We will start to see how the edges start to become fringed on the edge. I'm going to continue this one, and then we'll go on to the next electronic process. Yep, I'm done with the manual process, so here's how the edges will look, all fringed at the end. And what we will do next is, we will cut this section of the paper off, giving us another straight edge. And we would use this to paste with. We would separate this, as I'm going to show you further in our project, and we would use this to paste with, strip for strip. This is the manual process of fringing. Now, I'll show you the electronic portion of fringing using another tool that we use. What we'll do is you'll start all over again. You start all over again, fringing the edge, going on down, until there's no more paper left, and this is how we end up with all those strips of paper that you have in the front of you. I'm going to show you how we do the automatic portion of it, or a faster process. And what this is used for, really, it's used for cutting the wool off a sheep and other animals and taking their fur off. And what we have used it for is for fringing our paper. So once we turn it on, I'll show you how it works. And if we look, here's the edges of what the sheep shaver has done. And what you can do, if you want a longer fringe, you can put it in longer and you get a longer fringe. But of course, it does the same thing that we want done to the paper. Yes, and we will cut the edge off, and I'll show you what the paper looks like. Here it is. This is how we cut paper, getting prepared to paste. I'll show you what we're going to do next in the next portion of our project and get you ready. Here's what we're going to need to start our pasting: white glue, a paintbrush, and the white cardboard. Here you can see that these are all the fringe paper and I'm separating them. This is gonna help with moving faster as you're starting to paste and you need the paper to get started. The first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna take some of the white glue and you're gonna put some of the white glue at the bottom of the cardboard where we're gonna start with the crepe paper. So you just needed a nice even layer of glue at the bottom, and we're gonna put our first sheet of crepe paper. This crepe paper we use the straight edge because we want a straight edge where our cardboard begins. And what you do is you just use your finger and you can tear the crepe paper. Next, you take some more glue and you add it to the top of this crepe paper that you just put down. And now you put the fringed edge down, not the straight edge. You put the fringed edge down, and this will start your pasting process. Every time you put down a strip of paper, you're gonna put down a layer of glue. A strip of paper, a layer of glue. This practice also goes back to African traditions, whereas they put on things in layers. This is how we paste, strip for strip, layer for layer. Just like how I'm doing inside this video, I'm using paper after paper. I tear it, I add some glue, and I put on another strip of paper. And we keep on going over and repeatedly, strip for strip, layer for layer. As you're starting to paste, you're gonna get more comfortable with it. And as you do strip for strip, you're gonna see that you don't need as much glue. One of the tricks is this: you don't need as much glue. If you use too much glue, the glue will start to show when the pasting starts to dry, and it won't look as neat as when you use less glue. So just a nice layer of glue will be able to hold the paper because it's already a thin type of paper, so you don't need a lot of glue. If I'm moving a little bit too fast with the pasting, you can start to pause the video and pick up. What you'll see is that even if the paper tears while you're putting it down, just go right to where where the paper is torn and just rest the remainder of the paper, and you can continue pasting and nobody will even know that the paper was torn. This is the art of it all. As you paste more and more, as people who are practitioners of this will tell you that pasting is actually therapeutic for a lot of people, because they're able to put thoughts in their head and just continuously to enjoy what they're doing with this pattern. And as they're getting closer and closer to finishing, they can see their work coming to fruition right before their eyes. So a lot of people use this process, to clear their head, to relax, to unwind, and here you have it. You're on your way to pasting. In a few minutes, in a few strips, I'm going to show you how we add another color in. And that is something that you're going to be doing with your picture frame. Now, you don't have to add another color. If you're using one of your favorite colors or you want it to be a straight color, you can stick with one sheet of with one color, or you can mix it in as much as you want. Now we're going to change colors. In the one that I'm creating, I'm using a different color. So I'm going to use a different crepe paper. Now you're going to notice that I do something here when I put the orange on top of the green. I doubled the crepe paper. One of the reasons why I did that is because green is a very strong color, and if you put a lighter color over it, quote unquote, it will start to bleed through the lighter color. So what we do is I double the paper, and even if you want, you can triple it. Put 3 on top of one another, and that gives you a nice strong orange. And then, as you were doing with the green, you just take it up a sheet, take it up a layer, and you just continue pasting until you get to where you want to change the color again. or if you want to finish with the color that you're using. But here's an example of here's what it looks like with your fringing. And guess what? You're getting better with the pasting. I can see it as we continue to do it. Look at you. You're putting down your last strip of paper. Congratulations. You've just finished pasting your first piece. Oh, look at the close-up. Doesn't it look good? Now I'm going to show you how to clean up the edges so we have nice straight edges for our frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over and we're going to glue the sides. Put some layer of glue down on the sides. And as we glue the sides, we're going to fold that paper that's coming over. We're going to fold it so you get a nice straight edge on your edges. And this will give you a nice clean look when it comes time for us to do the next process. So just how I applied the glue, you can see how I'm just folding the paper over in place and it will adhere to the cardboard and you'll have a nice clean edge. You're going to do this on both sides of your frame. Finish one side. Now we're going to do the next side. Just need a nice even layer of glue. You don't need to do it too heavy because the paper is light, so once you fold it over, it will adhere right to the cardboard. And just like the first edge that we did, you will get a second straight edge on this to give you a nice clean look for your picture frame. As you finish up your edges, you can sit back and look at the pasted work that you've just completed. Look at it, we're one step closer to completing your pasted frame. Look at your masterpiece, your fringe pasted picture frame. Yes, you did all of this work. Now we're going to take it all to completion. Watch what we do. You're going to need a few tools in this section so we can decorate our frame, and then from there we're going to put the back on the frame. But let me tell you what you're going to need. One, you're going to need shears or scissors, something that you can use for cutting. The next thing would be some type of decoration, whether it's flat beads or jewels or anything that you're going to be using to decorate with. Then of course, next would be the picture that you're going to be putting inside the picture frame. The next thing you're going to need is something that I advise that you use with extreme caution, is a hot glue gun. Yes, this is how we're going to be fastening everything to the frame. It's hot, so use this under parent supervision or with extreme care because it gets very, very hot. Now, let's get decorating. First, what we're going to do is measure, kind of center where we want to put the picture itself that's going in the frame. Once we see exactly where we want the picture, I'm going to give you a little trick. What we can do is we can get a little marker, and what we're going to do, we're going to put some dots in the corner, in two corners of the pictures where we would like for that picture to go. So what that would allow us to do is put glue on the back of the picture, but it will allow us to actually line up the picture in the position that we want it to be in. Now you can see me, I'm going to use the black marker. I'm going to put the dots right under the corner of the picture where I want it to line up. For once I put the glue on, I can put it right back where these black dots are. Just need to be small dots so you can see them, so you can put them in place and you know exactly where you want to place the picture. From there, I'm going to turn the picture over and I'm going to use the hot glue and put some glue inside the four corners and the middle. You don't need to use a lot of glue because it's very hot, it will damage the picture if you use too much glue. So we're going to put the glue in the corners and probably a little bit in the middle, and then we can just adhere it. We can just place it right, line it up with our dots, and it will be right in the center where we need it to be. As we line the picture up, what we're going to do is just going to press it in the corners where we have the glue, and in the center, press it firmly so the glue can now stick to the crepe paper of the frame and your picture is now in place. Good job, guys. You're getting one step closer. What are we going to be doing next is I'm going to be using flat beads. Do you have flat beads? What are you going to be decorating your frame with? Flat beads. The decorations of this sort did not enter into Junkanoo until about the early 90s. Before then, they would use what they had to as decorations. They would use cloth, or they would use crepe paper and whatever that they can find to decorate their costumes. What we're going to be doing is taking the flat bead and actually putting it first around the edges of the picture first. I'm going to be putting the hot glue down. And of course, I told you again, be extremely cautious. This hurts if you get burned. So we're going to put the beads around the edges of the picture first. First, I'm going to do the right side, press it in place, and then I'm going to cut it. What we'd like to do is, why we cut it is because if you try to run it around the picture without cutting it, you're going to end up with probably some curved corners. But if you cut it, it gives you nice straight edges as you can line it up properly. So you can follow along as you're doing with your picture frame. Now that the picture is all beaded, look at your work. Look at what you did. One step closer to completion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run the beads on the outside of the frame, and that will give us, a more polished, or more, I want to say, adding some shine to actually all of the fringe pasting that you do. So you'll have a little pop on your fringe pasted frame. So when you put it up, you can see your picture shining in the middle of it all. Follow along in the video. Yes, the final string of beads is completed. Look at it. All edged and framed with your silver beads round the corner of your frame. Yes, almost there. This is what your frame is going to look like. Now, how is it going to stand up? I'll show you in the next step. Now, let's get started with creating the stand for our frame. The size that we used for our cardboard was 8.5 by 11 inches. The length of it was 11 inches. Let's use a little bit of math. So we need to find the center point of 11 inches. The center point would be 5.5 inches. So we're using our ruler, we're going to find the center, and we're going to draw a line and make some marks, and then we're going to draw a center line so we know exactly where's the halfway mark of our cardboard. I'm going to show you why that's important for you as we go along. Follow me in the video. I'm making the center marks, and as I make the center marks, I'm going to actually draw one line down the middle as to quote unquote split the cardboard in half. Now I'm getting ready to draw the center line down the middle of the cardboard. When I drew the line, it didn't look straight. If you look at it, you can see that it's not totally a straight line. So I'm gonna have to correct that. So what I do is I put the ruler right back to the beginning marker on the cardboard, and I straighten up the line. So I can have two complete equal halves of the cardboard. Once the center line is completed, we're going to draw one line from one corner to the next so we can have two triangles in the half of the cardboard. Follow me as we make this happen. Once we're completed with our corner lines, we'll actually be able to create 4 triangles from this one cardboard. The next step is to cut the cardboard in half. Then we're going to cut along the diagonal line so we get 2 triangles, which is important for our base to make it nice and sturdy. We're going to be using just 2 triangles. Even though you have 4, you can use it. Another person can use one half and you can use the next half. And you're going to be using 2 of the triangles to make your stand for your frame. You're going to have 2 triangles from your cuttings. And now we're going to put them together, and so our base could be nice and sturdy. We're going to glue them together using that hot glue. Yes, this is where you have to be careful again. After gluing the 2 triangles together, we're going to actually glue it to the back of our frame. And I'll show you how it's all going to stand up. This is what your finished product is going to look like once you glue everything together and it's all sturdy. It can stand up on its own. But first, let's glue the triangles together first by putting glue in between them, and then we're going to put them together and make sure that they're nice and firm. Remember, this glue is hot. You're going to use extreme caution, as you don't want this glue to get on any of your fingers because it's really going to hurt. So once we have our glue all in the center of our triangles, we're going to take the next one and put it right on top of the next one, and we're going to make sure that they stick firmly together. What's important is that all of the sides line up, especially the straight edges line up, because that's what's going to be supporting the bottom of the frame and the back of the frame. So everything should line up properly with your triangles, and then from there we're gonna make sure everything is all lined up as we have a perfect triangle by gluing those 2 pieces together. Now that the triangles are completed, we're going to clear off our working surface because we don't want anything messing up our beautiful pasted picture frame that we already have all pasted and decorated. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay it on its face so we can get to the back area. Remember that the size of this picture frame is 8.5. So we need to find the center point because that's where we want our triangles to go. So 8.5 divided by 2 will give us 4.25. So we'll find 4.25 from one of the edges and we'll put a mark there with the black marker. If I can get it open, it's kind of stuck. Okay, got it. So we put one mark there for 4.5, and then we go up just a little higher with your ruler and mark our 4.5 again. And we're going to connect these two dots, but we're going to connect these two dots using the triangle, the long straight part of the triangle, because once we connect these two dots together, this line is going to tell us exactly where to put our hot glue on the back. So we take it from the top of the triangle straight down to the base. This line is the center portion. This is where we're going to put that hot glue. So we're going to put that hot glue there, put the base of the triangle there, and we're going to have our stand, and everything is going to be well connected together, and the frame will be able to stand up on its own. Be careful as you use this hot glue, because I can tell you a lot of stories about being burnt with this. So we're going to put the glue down in the middle. We can use a generous amount of glue here because we want this to be nice and stiff once it dries, that our backing for our frame isn't going to go anywhere once we stand it on our dresser or the coffee table inside the house. And we're going to make sure that we have enough glue so everything is going to stand up nice and sturdy. So now the glue is down. Take the long straight edge portion of your triangle, and we're going to make sure that we adhere right in the middle of that glue. And guess what? For added support, you can add some glue down the seams, right where the white portion touches the frame itself. You can add some glue right there. Take your time and glue the seams, and once you're done gluing the seams, just let the glue dry for a few minutes and let everything become nice and stiff before you move the picture frame or before you stand it up or anything. Just let it become nice and dry and firm, and everything will be connected together. Yes, it's ready. Dried and ready. Look at what you've created. Your project is completed. A fringe pasted picture frame. You did this all on your own, and now you have a piece to put inside your house. Thank you for joining me and taking part of Bahamian traditional culture, pasting, one of the elements that make our Junkanoo festival very unique. Thank you for joining me.